Breaking news right now. This is a live picture there on the tarmac at Venezuela's main international airport. And you are seeing now yet another deportation flight with Venezuelans deported from the U.S. By the way of Honduras, and it landed there in Caracas. And so you've been seeing some of these undocumented migrants step down the plane there, and they're wearing all white, kind of in these white sweatsuits, gray sweatsuits with masks, red masks. This is the second time we have seen this in just a matter of weeks. And you remember mere weeks ago, U.S. Special Envoy Rick Grenell traveled to Venezuela, brokered with the Venezuelan government. Remember, the previous Biden administration does not recognize Venezuela's autocratic leader, Nicolas Maduro, as the duly elected leader of Venezuela. Nonetheless, the Trump administration brokered a deal with the Maduro government in order for the United States to send some of these deportation flights to Venezuela to return some of these undocumented migrants who were from Venezuela in the first place. And that's what you're seeing right now, some of them.
Ladies and gents, nearly 200 Venezuelan migrants have been deported. They first made a stop in Guantanamo. From there, they went to Honduras, and then Venezuela picked them up. But now a lot of them are saying they are not criminals. And so, you guessed it right, they started complaining about the treatment, the facility, even the food. But what some of these individuals don't get is that if you cross the border illegally into the United States, you have committed a federal crime. Therefore, you will be treated as a criminal. But they're not used to it because the Joe Biden administration allowed them to cross the border illegally whenever the hell they wanted without any accountability. And these are the results. Therefore, today you will hear the story of Kevin Rodriguez, who told us how the Guantanamo facility was dirty, in poor conditions, and he didn't like the way he was treated. And the food was disgusting, if you will. I mean, Guantanamo was pretty much terrible, guys. It was a horrible experience. It was not like the 5-star hotels in New York City. Can you believe it? But before we continue, we do have some major breaking news. The Trump administration's cartel crackdown has begun.
Under President Trump's orders, the crackdown on illegal immigration is intensifying. And now the truth is being revealed. We have learned the danger our nation is up against.
We're liberating communities like Aurora, Colorado, and Springfield, Ohio, that have been occupied by illegal alien criminals from all over the world. We're rescuing the Americans whose jobs have been stolen, whose wages have been robbed, and whose way of life has been absolutely destroyed. And under the Trump administration, our country will not be turned into a dumping ground.
Well, here is more disturbing information. The pure danger we face. Drug cartels are infiltrating cities across America now. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, estimates there are more than 70,000 deaths each year. And they look specifically at 2021, 2022, and 2023 under the Biden administration, directly related to the fentanyl epidemic that's been driven by the vicious cartel drug rings. And if you want to get even a deeper sense of just how far and deadly the reach of the cartels is, look at the community of Carrollton in North Texas. The Dallas division of the Drug Enforcement Administration discovered the Sinaloa cartel was responsible for multiple teenage fentanyl deaths. And DEA seized 1.2 million deadly pills in 2023.
Special agent in charge Eduardo Chavez says that fentanyl remains the deadliest illicit drug available in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. According to the DEA, in 2024, there were more than 367 million fentanyl pills seized nationwide. The Dallas Field Division seized about 40 million deadly doses.
So President Trump wants to wipe out the cartels in Mexico. And what does the Mexican president do? she is pushing back against it.
But the designations also raise the prospect of something more: US military action against the cartels in Mexico. An idea that President Claudia Sheinbaum wholly rejected this Thursday.
What we want to make clear in the face of this designation is that we do not negotiate sovereignty. As I said yesterday, this cannot be an opportunity for the United States to invade our sovereignty, so they can name them whatever they want. But with Mexico, it is a collaboration and coordination, never subordination, and even less invasion.
So let me get this straight. Your country has been nearly destroyed by the cartels. And then you have President Trump offering assistance to completely annihilate them. And she's like offended. She seems offended by this designation. It sounds and it looks very suspicious. Needless to say, you now have migrants complaining even after they were deported. The entitlement mentality never fails, guys. And then you have the Mexican president, who seems to be against the idea of the United States wiping out the Mexican cartels. I wonder why. Is she working with them, or are the cartels her bosses? I don't know. It's just a question. But it all seems and smells very fishy. Let's get started. All right, so let's go over these two reports. Both of them are mainly about Kevin Rodriguez's story. The first one is when he arrived, and the second one is when he met with his family in Venezuela. The reporter says they arrived in Venezuela Thursday evening, and they were received with cheers after they came from Guantanamo, made a stop in Honduras, and then came to Venezuela. Wait a second. Look at that. What is that? Oh, no, of course. It's not a criminal. No. Absolutely not. He's probably a pastor or something, right? Anyway, so this is Nelson Rodriguez, and he is the father of one of these individuals. He seems very emotional, and he says, I was able to see my son. He was part of that group, and I felt like my soul came back inside my body. The reporter says Nelson was able to recognize his son Kevin and spoke with him. Nelson says he told me he was doing okay. We couldn't speak for too long because there were other guys there who needed to speak with their family members. He's being checked out by doctors and psychologists. And in about 3 to 5 days, all of them will be reunited with their families, he says. Then this one is Joyker. And the reporter says that his mother, whose name is Angela, says he was in Guantanamo, but she still hasn't been able to see him in any of the reports. It seems that Angela is in the United States, and she is emotional here. And she says that he was detained since the month of September. And I'm very worried about his mental health. And I will not be able to be okay until I speak with him. The journalist says that the Guantanamo base is technically empty right now, and that officials informed them that this base will be used as a transition for many migrants who will be deported. The first military flight arrived in Guantanamo on February 4th with 10 Venezuelan migrants. She says, according to the Wall Street Journal, a military flight costs $28,500 per hour versus a standard ICE flight, which costs $8,500. We don't care what it costs. You see what they're doing here? Like, oh, it's too expensive now. What about the hotels? The hotels cost a lot more than that. So if this is going to serve as a deterrent, keep doing the military flights. Let's go on. She says, out of the 178 Venezuelan migrants who went to Guantanamo, one of them was sent back to the US. 51 of them did not have criminal record, although they were in the country illegally. 126 of them had criminal record, and 80 of them had ties to the TDA gang, according to DHS. The journalist says that this Center for Constitutional Rights attorney was able to stop 3 migrants from being transferred to Guantanamo. She says 2 of them, because I guess they had tattoos, the government was linking them to the TDA gang. But besides that, she says, they basically did not have any evidence. The journalist says, for those family members who stayed behind, meaning in the US, they are now having mixed feelings. And this is when we hear from Angela again, and she says, honestly, he wanted to stay with us because we are his only family, myself, his sister, and his nephew. And this is Kevin's father. He's crying. And he's saying that the feeling is as if someone removed an organ from you, because as a parent, you care for your children. And so I'm deeply affected by it. Then the journalist finalizes the report by saying that according to the New York Times, the Trump administration is considering using a military base in Texas to hold up to 10,000 migrants, in addition to other military bases, to detain them before deporting them. And then this is the report where Kevin finally met with his family. He says he's happy to be reunited with his family. And the journalist says Kevin is with his family now. He was part of that flight where 178 Venezuelans went to Guantanamo. Kevin, the Venezuelan migrant, says, when we got there, it was very dirty. There were spider webs everywhere. To be honest, it seems like no one's been there in a very long time. They didn't even clean the facility, and there were ants everywhere. The journalist says, Kevin tells us that he spent his days in a prison cell measuring 9 by 6 feet, with a mattress that was very thin on top of a concrete bed. Kevin says, we were cold. The food was not up to par. It was very little food, and the last meal was around 4 p.m. And to be honest, around 7, 8, and 9 p.m., we were all starving. The journalist says that Kevin told them he lost about 9 pounds. Kevin says, we took a shower every 3 days, and they shackled us before taking us to the shower. And then they searched us before entering the shower. And then when we came out of the shower, they searched us again. He continues. There were people who never made it into the US. And some people didn't even have tattoos or had any ties to any gang. And they all treated us the same. We were discriminated against because we were Venezuelans, he says. And here the journalist goes over the same stats we discussed in the previous video. Kevin says, that was my biggest worry, not knowing how long I was going to be there for, or when would my family know anything about me. The journalist says that Nelson, who is Kevin's father, felt relieved when he recognized his son during the report where the Venezuelan migrants arrived in Venezuela. Now Kevin says, I'm going to start from scratch in my country, and I'll never leave my country again because I've been traumatized by this experience. So there you go, guys. Guantanamo traumatized Kevin, and I'm sure many other migrants. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Now, let's discuss the Mexican president. First, this is what President Trump is doing in order to gather intel on the Mexican cartels.
Now to the southern border, where the U.S. government is ramping up its covert aerial surveillance program in an effort to win the war against Mexican drug cartels. The New York Times reporting the CIA has expanded secret drone flights over Mexico in an effort to find fentanyl labs.
The Trump administration has added 8 drug cartels, including 6 from Mexico, to the list of foreign terrorist organizations. Meanwhile, the Pentagon has confirmed that it has in fact deployed the MQ-9 Reaper spy drone to track cartel activity inside Mexico. These drones have already flown several times over Mexico and can be equipped with payloads to carry precision strikes. Pentagon officials say the designation of the gangs as foreign terrorist organizations could lay the groundwork for direct U.S. strikes against the cartels and their drug labs. Now, Mexico says it is in fact aware of the American drones flying over its airspace, and President Claudia Sheinbaum has confirmed that her office gave the approval for these flights.
These flights are part of a coordinated operation. Here is the Admiral's Secretary. They are collaborations between the U.S. and Mexican governments and have been done for many years and many times that request, or rather, all times it is at the request of the government of Mexico, of collaboration of information in order to address security conditions. First of all, there is nothing illegal. What we have is a collaboration and cooperation that has been going on for many years, not just now.
So per reports, this is not new. The United States has been gathering intel on the cartels for many years. But this designation is fairly new. And because of that, there is a big chance that America could start striking the bases, or I guess labs, of these cartels, maybe even capturing some of those leaders. And this is where Mexico seems a bit concerned.
They're not just cartels now, according to the US. The Trump administration's just designated 6 Mexican criminal groups as terrorist organizations.
Nosotros somos narcotraficantes.
Among them, the powerful Jalisco New Generation and Sinaloa cartels.
This is a sea change in U.S. policy, and there will be a whole of government effort to remove these terrorists from our soil and to degrade their ability to threaten or undermine any American security or sovereignty interests.
But the designations also raise the prospect of something more: US military action against the cartels in Mexico. An idea that President Claudia Sheinbaum wholly rejected this Thursday.
What we want to make clear in the face of this designation is that we do not negotiate sovereignty. As I said yesterday, this cannot be an opportunity for the United States to invade our sovereignty, so they can name them whatever they want. But with Mexico, it is a collaboration and coordination, never subordination, and even less invasion.
For years, the two countries have worked together to try and stop the flow of drugs. It emerged this week that US drones already fly into Mexico to spy on the cartels. President Sheinbaum even announced as a counterpunch to the US designation that Mexico would be expanding its lawsuit against US gun makers whose weapons, it says, are arming the cartels.
Imagine the US handing the Mexican government all of these amazing intel on the cartels. But what if the Mexican government has already been infiltrated by the cartels? It would all be for nothing. And I think President Trump knows this. And that's why he is making such designations. But this will be very interesting to watch. So please stay tuned. I'll keep you updated as the crackdown on the cartels continues. Thank you for watching. Do not forget to smash the like button, subscribe, and share this video with everyone you know. The shoutouts for those of you who go the extra mile are down below. Thank you for the amazing support. And please let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll see you guys next time.
Good evening, everyone. So over the weekend, MSNBC canceled Joy Reid's TV show.
Take a deep breath for just a moment and ponder.
You're fired.